Another how-to video here at SwissWatchExpo. Today we're working with the Submariner. This one happens to be the date function Submariner. Now, there are versions of this watch with no date. So in other words, this Cyclops and that date function, they're not there. You just simply have a clean dial, one function, it just tells time. So the reason that I pulled this out, these watches work identically in terms of the movement to a Datejust. But we wanted to be able to create a video for you so that you could understand how this Submariner works as opposed to a Datejust. There's one more feature on this watch that a Submariner has that a Datejust does not. So all Rolex watches that are water resistant, including the Datejust, the Submariner, the Milgauss, the Daytona, and on, they're all water resistant to a certain level. The only one that is an exception to that I wouldn't swim in is the Cellini. And many of those do not have, in fact, the greater majority of them don't have screw down crowns. So this watch works like this. Unscrew the crown. So the crown, unscrew it towards you. So this way, towards you, not away from you. When you do, you see that crown pop out. Okay, so push on it a little. You'll see that it has just the ever slightest amount of springiness. You see that action? That means it's in the winding position. That's how you know. So then you turn that clockwise, so towards the 12 or away from you, and that's how you wind the watch. Now you're going to notice I use my knuckle as kind of like a track, a railroad, a road, if you will. And I do this and it winds the watch very quickly. Now you're going to want to wind this watch about 45 or 50 times to get it fully wound. Of course, it's on automatic, so it winds on its own. But the most important thing is that you've unscrewed this crown and now you understand how this works. This watch sets exactly like a Datejust. So you pull it out 2 clicks. Now, see, we don't know whether it's 6:30 at night or 6:30 in the morning. Okay? So we're going to pull this out. Pull this crown out all the way. Give it one good click. Now, you're going to notice how long that is. There's 2 clicks. There's 1 click for the date, 2 clicks for the time. The reason we're doing this is we want to watch and see if that 11 changes the date when we go past the 12. It did not. So that means that we just passed noon. It's safe at this point to set the date if you want to. So let's assume that it was 2 o'clock. You'd want to set that date now, and that's fine. Let's assume for a second. Let's do this. Let's assume that you're getting ready to go to bed, and it's 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night. Don't set that date. Do not set that date. Why? This date wheel is engaged at this point to change and flip at midnight. I'm going to demonstrate that. It's going to go from 11 to 12. See that? It flipped. We're still in the danger zone. Don't set that date. Move that hour hand to the bottom half of the dial. Not the minute hand doesn't matter, only the hour hand. So what I always tell people is make sure that the hour hand is not in the top horizon of the dial, the top half, because it's unsafe to change that date. Because we know it's already flipped past midnight and we know the hour hand's in the bottom half of the dial, we're perfectly safe to change that date. So now I always push it all the way back in and then I pull it back out just a smidge to set the date. See that? Great. Now I'm going to set the time. Because we know we're already past midnight, I can just go ahead and set it to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Push it back in, push it in, turn it, push it in and turn it. So push it in and turn it. Once you get the crown locked into the screw threads, it'll screw down easily. You don't have to keep pushing in and turning. You just push it in that one time to grab the threads and then screw it the rest of the way down. And then screw it down finger tight. You don't have to tighten it terribly tight. Just make sure it stops. You're good. So now, how does the bezel work? Well, let's say it's 2 o'clock, as it is. We're going to mark our time here. So when this particular minute hand goes through, you can see 10 minutes, alt 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes. You're going to mark your time using that minute hand. Now, just for the purpose of what we're doing here and to demonstrate, I'm going to show you something. I'm just going to go ahead and make it, let's just make it 240. Now, if I want to time an event, I want to turn this as a unidirectional bezel. It only goes one way, so it only goes this way. It does not go back this way. You can't lose time. You can gain time. I'm sorry, you can lose time, but you cannot gain time, because you wouldn't want to gain time. You would drown underwater if you use this to measure how much air was left in your tanks. So let's say you went underwater, or so you're timing something and you need a certain amount of time to mark. We're going to mark the minute hand right here with the arrow. That means you can watch that hand progress through the bezel time, and you can tell how many minutes have gone by since the time you marked. Make sense? That's how you use a Submariner, and that's how you set the time and everything. As I said to you, it works just like the Datejust. If you have any other questions, give us a call here at SwissWatchExpo.